Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my Discord bot tutorial series. In today's video, we're going to learn how to build a code compiler. And I'm very excited for this tutorial. So let's dive into the demo. And here, back to our Discord. And we're going to type in a Python code. We're going to input that and output a result. So for that, I'm going to type in 1pi, and I'm going to hold Shift and Enter. And I'm going to create some code block here. So I'm going to put 3 of them, backticks, and then I'm going to say Python. Then going to again do Shift Enter. Then I'm going to do another 3 of the backticks. Going to go right at the end of the Python. I'm going to push Enter, and I'm going to say print, and I'm going to say hello world. Just when we first learn to program or anything like that, we simply do this, or testing any editor. So I'm going to do this same thing here, and we should get the output as the hello world. So you can see the bot returned an hello world. And in other case, what we can do also, which we're going to build, is run py. That's the command itself. Let's do it again, Shift Enter 3 times, and say Python, then Shift Enter 3 times. Gonna go up over here. I'm gonna say define. So now when we can actually write our logics in the IDE or any other editor in Python languages like that, but we can also define a functions or class. We can take a class, and within that functions, if you know general programming concept of Python. So here we're going to write a function called test, and what we will do within that test, we're going to say print me 1 plus 2. So give me the result of that, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to call that functions, right? So there's going to be function callback. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go out of this, and I'm going to push Enter, and we should get some output. And there you go, 3. So we're going to cover some of the generic cases, but I will show you how you can build up more of them, such as doing classes, if-else statements, for loops, those sort of stuff. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And let's dive into some of the use cases of such bots, what you can actually do with such concepts. Now, you may be familiar with online editors or IDE, where you can actually type in and it gives you sort of results. Like what we literally did is print hello world, and it printed hello world. You can actually build this for your end users, so where they can actually type some code, test some codes and stuff like that on the go, without having to open another IDE, or it looks pretty cool concept. On the other hand, you are probably familiar with competitive programmings, where the contest takes place online and a lot of people participate. You can actually build a bot on these, but these are well-known websites. You can see which you can actually look up to, where you are given a questions, you submit your solutions, and it tells you whether your submission has been success or not, and how long it take you to submit, time complexity, space complexity, whatnot, etc. I'm not going to dive into those, and you can get some of the concepts from here. One of them are code forces, and there's another well-known as AdCoder also. This is also a really good contest website, and we have also CodeChef, and this is also known. So these are like contest websites where you take part, you participate with other peoples. So you can actually also build a participant code competitions bot, where your server members can take participation on that. Maybe not at a high level, but probably at low level. Have fun with everybody while you learn. Also, you are probably also might know something like an interview website where they help you, like sort of stuff. So Lead Code is one of them, where you actually there are a bunch of questions, you actually solve them, and you get a job at FANG companies and stuff like that, where they ask you those questions, you solve them. So there, I can see there's another good use case for this, where you can build an interview bot to prepare other people's in your server. So you could have a server that helps people to get that confident. You can have a one-to-one session with a bot or something, and they could write, and which gives them the solution whether they have passed all the test cases and or not. There's another well-known also HackerRank. So these are one of those examples or use cases that you can potentially build, and I can see there are market gap at the moment, because I am not sure, or I'm not aware if there are such bots exist in Discord at the moment. If not, and then I can see this is a great opportunity for everyone to grab. And let's dive into the next section of our bot, which is prerequisites now. Onto my GitHub repository. The link will be down below in the descriptions. You want to go select the code sections right here, and you can download the zip file. In today's case, I'm going to actually clone the repo from the IDE itself. So let's open up PyCharm. And now, normally when I download, you've probably seen on the previous tutorials that I usually go for the open sections. In today's, we're going to go for the get from VCS sections. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste the URL of the repository right here, and I'm going to select clone. And we will wait till the cloning is finished. Once you have successfully cloned, you're most likely to get prompt with this dialog box right here, where it's asking you to install requirements.txt. So all the packages that we are using for this project will be installed automatically if you select OK. But for instance, today I'm going to manually install and show you how to do that in case if this doesn't work, because I did notice that majority of the comments and those who reached out to me for help had majority issues with the packages. There was conflict because they were not installed properly, and hence you received a lot of error. So we're going to resolve today, and I'll show you how to do that. Now go ahead and open a terminal or a command prompt or a PowerShell if you're on Windows, and make sure you're in the same directory as your folder, and within there or within your IDE or text editor, make sure you have also the terminal open and the location is present to your directory that all these files has been cloned. So, and from there, what you're going to do, you're going to type Python 3 -m, and then I'm going to call this virtual environment tutorial env. So tutorial env, and I'm going to push enter, and which should create me a virtual environment with this name. And now what I'm going to do is activate this tutorial virtual environment. So for Windows, those who are using Windows, you're going to type the following. So tutorial-env, then backslash, and then scripts with capital S, and then /activate dot or full stop BAT. So Bravo Alpha Tango, right? That should do it. And those who are for, like me, Linux and Mac OS, so I'm going to show you that right now. I'm going to execute that so you can see how that is done. So source tutorial env /bin/activate. So activate. I'm going to push enter. And right here, you can see straight away tutorial env it's showing. Now, obviously, you don't get confused with this. This is my base activation for Anaconda. So because I used that, so that has been activated over here. But the most thing you want to focus here, that make sure before your command line, there is a tutorial env or whatever you have named, for instance, that is appearing. If not, then try to look for some hint from the documentation. So the links will be again down below in the descriptions. So this goes for the virtual environment. Now, if you open up the readme.md file from here, and you can see there are some installation instructions. So now we have to install all the requirements, that the packages that are coming with this project, we have to ensure that they are installed, right? So I'm going to copy this right here. And then paste it right here. And then I'm going to push enter. And that should start collecting the requirements and we'll begin the installation. So I'll go ahead and pause. And now you can see all the packages have successfully installed. So that is for the setting up the folder, and downloading or cloning, and getting to reinstall successfully all the requirements. So let's go ahead back to the web page real quick. And let's jump to the next sections of this. So where you have to go to discord.com/developers/applications and make sure you have a bot application available. If not, then go ahead and create one. Once you have created, go ahead and invite to your server because you're going to need that to test it. Now, come down to a section where it says bot, and you can scroll down here. And there are two options that needs enabled. First one is present intent and server member intent. Make sure they are toggled on. So like this, I'm going to click on reset here because they're already turned on because I have declared them into my repository, the code you're using. Hence, you have to turn them on in order to interact with the bot itself. And the next thing we're going to do is copy our token, head back to our PyCharm, come here to .env, and where it says token is equal to Discord bot token goes here. You just want to remove these sections and replace it with the bot token itself. And then go ahead and save all right here. And you can close this one out. And that way you have successfully now stored your token. The next step is for the actual work that we're going to do. So this is JDoodle. It's an online compiler support. So they provide an API support for online compilation. So when you run some code, it gets compiled and you see the output. So you see the examples that I have given in the previous use cases, they actually use such API. Probably not this one, but there are a lot of other services available. But this one, I found this is free. And it's really ease of use than any other ones. And I think this suits this tutorial. Now you can see they support 72 languages. So not just Python. Python was just an example that I wanted to show you. You can do Java, you can do PHP, JavaScript, and any other language that you can think of. They also cover 2 more databases, which is MySQL and MongoDB. And so first thing first, the link will be down below in the description. So it's jdoodle.com. You want to go there. You want to click on sign in. And you want to sign in with your Google account. So I'm going to do that. That way you will register your service. And if you don't have any of these, then you can go ahead and select the register button over there and you can register yourself manually. Once you have registered, you can see yourself over here with little icon, and if you select that, that will show your email ID and whatnot. But at this point, we want to focus in this API area. So we want to go to this API, and you can see that there are 200 credits per day available for free. And if you go over your credits, so the number of requests you're going to send to this website, the free amount is 200. And if you go above that, it's going to cost you $10. Yes, so if you're somebody like providing professional service, I would recommend you to get one. And I think $10 is reasonable, whatever the price is. Or if you think you're under budgets, then you can probably optimize your code so that every request is very reasonable when user is sending, and you can check if their input is correct or not, and based on that you process the request. That goes for that. And let's head over to their documentations, and you can see everything is mentioned here: how to get started, how their billing period works and whatnot, how to downgrade and sort of stuff. But if you scroll all the way down, and these are all the language supported, you can see that our instructions are given. And I think one of the examples is given you the how to execute using Java, or make a call method, API calls, or using Node.js. How do you do that? And finally, they're showing you an easy example, which is Postman examples. So I, again, highly recommend you to explore these documentations and possibilities to do your findings. I did mine, but it doesn't mean that you should actually just follow up what I'm doing exactly, although that is to get you started. But you want to have some of your own initiative to read and see where you can actually what are the possibilities that you can implement into your program. That goes for that. Now we want to go to the sections where we are able to retrieve our credentials. So this API would require some sort of credentials to make sure that there's a handshake between our and to this API service. So let's go ahead and do that. So back to our API web page, and we're going to choose the free version. And it is going to tell us what exactly that it is, what's going to happen here, what are the services available, and it is for free. And by subscribing, you're agreeing to the terms and services. So go ahead and read them and make sure you're agreeing to the right terms and services and you're aware of them. So I'm going to go ahead and select subscribe here. And once you have selected the subscribe, you will be given your dashboard here. So you will have all the information with your current plan that you are on, which is 200 credits per day. Your credits used at the moment is 0. We haven't. You can change your plan, you can upgrade them. And if you come down to the credentials, this is where you are given your client ID and client secret. Now, do notice that by this time I upload the video, when I upload this video, all these accounts will be deleted. So there will be no point of using these credentials. So you're better off registering yourself if you haven't. That will be a good options, because if you want to follow up onto this tutorial furthermore, then you can enter your credit card information and payment information if you're buying their credit plans. And that goes for this. So right now what we're going to do is assign these credentials or implement these credentials into our env files. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go to PyCharm, open.env file. And you can see we've got our token right here. And what we want to do is get those credentials that we have just enabled for our API service. So, but before that, I'm going to write 2 new variable below there, which is going to be client ID is equal to, and then the next one I'm going to do is client secret. I recommend, guys, one more thing I want to give you a quick tip in terms of security. Make sure these names are different, because if you are using same name as I am, you can imagine how many people are using this, watching this video. So you are most likely to have a same name as them, and that could potentially could cause security issues. So let's go over to that website. I'm going to select this little icon there to copy the client ID. Come back here, paste it there, go back again. Client secret, again, little icon right over there. And I can come back here and paste it there. And that goes for the setting up the API overall. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save all. And going to close this one out. And let's go back there. Now we will come back to the documentation again because we have to set up our API calls and make some requests. But before doing that, we're gonna head over to another web page called this is something called Black, and it's a formatter, code formatter. So basically, if you notice that when I typed in, if I open up here, you probably noticed that I use something like code block here. So Python, and I did something in there. And if I remember, so now what happened is that when I do define test, well, method or function, and when I do indent right here, when we retrieve that information, it is no longer like that. Okay, but we're gonna use this library, which is going to ensure that when this input is received, it will be stored, and then it will be formatted exactly like we want. So we want our end format to show something like this, right? So hello world, right? And at the end, we also want the test. I'm just showing you an example, guys, just because it's best to understand right now, then you can make a best use at the end. So we want to make sure that what we received, the end goal is to have the same input, right? So, and the output also correctly executed, so that we'll get the successful result from the output. So if our input is messed up, and let's say this is over here, and this is something like here, then it's gonna be syntax error, right? That's not the correct syntax for Python, we all know. So that's what this library is going to ensure that doesn't happen. So the link will be down below in the descriptions for the documentation. So please do have a look. This will really help you because this does play a huge role as the API that we are using. So let's go down to the installation sections, and you can see the installation is pip install Black. So we're going to do that right over here. So I'm going to say pip 3 for mine, so it probably pip or pip3, whichever works best for you. Install, and I'm going to say Black, and let's push enter right here, and this will install the package. And with this installations being successful, we have completed our prerequisite sections. And I believe we are good to go and start implementing our code and our functions to interact with the API. And then we're going to write our commands, and then we're going to execute and see that in actions. So to start with that, first of all, I'm going to go to the APIs folder, right click over here, and gonna go new and Python file. And this Python file, I'm going to call it code compiler. I'm going to push enter. And yes, I will go ahead and add in this case. And now we're going to import some libraries. So import OS, and then import JSON, and then import requests, and then if from .env, we're going to import load env. right, load .env, I believe. So it's .env. And that goes for the inputs. Okay, it's saying no Python interpreter has been configured. Let me go ahead and pause real quick, and I'll go ahead and do that. You should not have that issue. And now we're going to load those in env, that the credentials that we're going to use in this case. So I'm going to say load .env. And let me just quickly comment out here. So I'm going to say loading data from .env file, believe. So let's go down, and I'm going to say this first variable I'm going to take, which is going to bring the client ID followed by the client secret. So let's do that. Client ID is equal to os dot get env, and I'm gonna say it's client ID. So make sure the name is correct, whatever you have named that, and then client secret equals to os dot get env, and I'm gonna call this client secret. So client secret, that's what I have named. Perfect. So now that is done. So let's take a function, define compiler, and the compiler will take some piece of code which will come from the command itself. And we're going to make a post request. So I'm going to say post URL. Post URL is equal to, and we're going to request to an URL, which is https api.jdoodle.com, and then /v1 version 1 /execute. So execute. And this is actually mentioned on the website, guys, with the documentation that I have. We quickly cruised through that one in the previous prerequisite sections, if you can recall. And right here, we're going to load that. So JSON.loads, and open a bracket, and I'm going to call the request here, requests.get. And what we're going to, so I'm going to push enter right here just to clean it up. So I'm going to say post URL. We're going to pass in the URL itself where the request is going. And I'm going to say JSON is equal to. So these are going to be the parameters that are going to pass in with the URL. And now I did try renaming the JSON, guys, but unfortunately, based on their documentation, this was much I had much successful with the following word here. But normally you have seen that we recall that parameter, or n number of names, but in this case just stick to JSON. But do let me know if you are being successful with any other name so that I can investigate this further. Anyway, let's go ahead and do all the fulfill all our requirements. So I'm going to use the double quotation here, and I'm going to call the first one is script, and the script which actually will take the code itself. So I'm going to use the f-string literals here. I'm going to pass in the code which is coming from the user input, comma, and I'm going to pass in the language, and the language is going to be Python 3. Obviously, for yours, whatever in this case yours choice of language, make sure you put in there correctly and read the documentation how they want you to declare this. So they want for Python as in Python 3, comma, go down, and in here I'm gonna say version index, so version index, and I'm gonna put in the quotations, and I'm gonna put 3 right here. I'm gonna put comma, right. It has some issue. Let me Control Z out. Oops. Okay, version index. Sorry, guys. Version index, and I'm gonna say colon, and again here I'm gonna say it's 3. That's what it was mentioned there. And the next thing, we're going to call our client ID. So client ID, I with the capital and D. And literally we're going to use our f-string literals here and type in client ID variable, comma, let's go down. Again, we're going to do that. And we're going to say client secret with S with capital SECRET, making sure nothing is wrong. And we're going to do f-string literals here. And I'm going to call the client secret. Perfect. So these are the information that is required. So ensure that are correct in this case. And I'm going to load as in content. So dot content. Perfect. Okay, so that should be fine in this case. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to print the result to ensure that our API is correctly working. And I'm going to go out and call the function compiler here. And I'm going to say code is equal to, and I'm going to put in a string. Oops. And I'm going to call this print. And let's say hello world. Right? And let's go ahead and test the specific code, guys. So you want to right click here and hit run, right? And please do ensure that all the spellings are correct. I do understand you're going to clone my repository, which will have the updated version of the code. So you're probably don't have to type it in, but I would highly recommend you to go through the code line by line and understand what exactly going on and follow the tutorial itself. So now let's go ahead and execute the Python file. So I'm going to run and compile this file. And you can see the output is hello world with the new line status code, which is true 100, which is basically means it has been successful, the memory and the CPU time. Right, so good amount of information, but you can use all this information however you like and make a good use case of them out of them. But I'm most interested in the output itself. Right, so that's been the first success with the API, which is a good news here. But I'll close this one down. And now I'm going to modify this so that we can use this into our commands. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And going to remove the print statement right here. And I'm going to return this. Right, perfect. So that should be okay. And let's go ahead and hit save. And now we can close this one. And let's go ahead and hide this. And let's open our command sections. Now, all those are there. And I'm going to create a new command for our Discord bot. I'm going to call this one is Python compiler. So Python compiler. Right, perfect. I will go ahead and add. So first thing first, we're going to do is import all our requirements that we're going to use in this case. So import always import from Discord dot extensions import commands, and then from the API itself we're going to say code compilers. So code compiler import, and if we can correctly remember that, okay, so that's supposed to be APIs, so because the folder name is APIs, and what we're going to import is the compiler itself, right? That method which handles the code itself and gets us the result that we need. Gonna push down. Let's take class. You guys are pretty much familiar with this. If you've been watching my video, those who are new, welcome to this. So compiler and then commands dot cog, and then we're gonna define the constructor init, which takes bot, and then go down here and I'm gonna say self dot bot self.bot is equal to bot, and come out here. I'm going to define setup, and which takes a bot itself. I'm going to come out here, and now we want to add this to our extension, which is bot add cog, and which is going to take the Python compiler class, and the Python compiler class takes the bot itself. Perfect. That goes for the base setup. I'm going to reformat this. It's perfect. So let's come out of this one, and we're going to implement our business logic. Now, let me quickly run you through what exactly the process that is going through my head, because you need to have a thought process here, guys. So we're going to get some inputs, which is going to be n number of inputs, right? So we don't care like how long is the code is. In this case, we want to make sure that we handle the input is given to us, and we're going to store this, right, as what it is. And the next step, we're going to ensure that we format that stored piece of code, right? And then we're going to send that to our API to process the data, and then we're going to send this back to our end user, which is output the result to our Discord, right? Discord user. So I hope you got this. It is okay. It takes some time to understand this thought process, but it's good to have this sort of stuff. So your problem solving skills will become good every time you have thought process in place. So let's go ahead and do that. Add commands dot command, and the command itself going to be async defined run py. So run the Python code. I just called it run py. Feel free to call anything you like. It's going to take the context ctx, and we're going to take as many arguments as you like. So in this case, we're going to put an asterisk before the variable. So what it does, you probably heard about args and quirks, key arguments and arguments. And if you want to have number of arguments to be accepted, then you use such things. So, right. And now what I'm going to do, we're going to test bit by bit, so not to worry. Format underscore args. So we're going to format the arguments, and I'm going to take the argument in a list, so which will allow me to format, edit whatever I like, or iterate through. It'll be much easier for me. So args, right? And let's go ahead and test that. So I'm going to print here and see how my args are coming. And then from there, we can build some more thought process into this and build some logic, right? Before we can write some code. That's the way to go, okay? So let's hit the save button right here. And we're going to run, instead of the code compiler, we're going to run the main.py and ensure that our bot is online. And if there are any bugs, we will fix that too. And the bot should come online. And we have some issues. So let's have a look. And I restarted the code again, and the bot went online. So there was temporary fails. So that's nothing to worry. If you get similar situation like that, just restart your code again. Just run it again. So let's go here. And we have some code here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this. Now the prefix is exclamation mark, and we know the command is numpy. Now the question is why we are doing this, the block, and we are mentioning Python here. Now I can imagine that either you're coding here, or I don't know, or any other IDE. In this case, you're gonna have to copy and paste that code and execute it here, right? And for visibility for user end, you want things to be nice and tidy. And if you do this, you notice that Python syntax are getting highlighted correctly and they're indented correctly. So once you send that message in there, so print and then hello world. And when you're sending this, you are noticing that your syntax is staying. So we'll come back to this in a minute. So numpy, and then you can notice there it is staying how it is and it's highlighted the string bits, even when writing define and whatnot. So in that case, I choose this method because at least if you're doing something, let's make it look nice and tidy. Why not? And on the other end, probably we are not going to get the input as it is, but for user visibility, like I said, it's much nicer. So we've got invalid command. Let's have a look. Why is that? So it's runpy. Okay. And what did we put in? Numpy. Okay. That's the error. So I'm going to copy this, paste it here, and replace it to runpy. Let's go down out of the code block. I'm going to execute that, and let's take a look here. So you can see after the context, which is the exclamation mark and the command itself, it has got the code block itself, which is we declared like 3 backticks and Python in one sort of index. And on the next index, you can see there's a print hello. On the other end index, you have world, and then basically you have this right here, the end of the code block. So that's the one of the case. I'll explain and what I'm thinking according to my thought process, how we're going to implement. We're actually going to discuss that. The next thing we've seen in the, so I'm going to copy this in the demo where we have define test, and which basically I'm gonna indent that right there, print 1 + 1, and after that you come out of that indentation and you literally call your functions, which is called the function, the test itself, And once we press enter, let's have a look how that looks like. So now we can see we've got the start of the block, and we can see it's the defining the function. The def is coming it separately, which makes unique from this to this, right? Because this is when you're going to define a function, is always going to have a def, right? And hence this is basically we can differentiate between this print hello world to defining a test function and then writing our print. And then at the end, we have the callback function, which is the test calling the function itself and our method in this case to print the 1+1 result, right? And at the end, the code block. So I can see there are two cases that needs to be handled right here, right? So before we build up the logic. Now, if you move to further down where you have if statement and for loop, you also have to take care of them, which I'm not going to do this on this tutorial because I don't have enough time to cover everything in this tutorial. And also, this is just to get you started. It's all about you. You want to build this up and you know, show the community what you actually can do, right? If I were to do this, I could have built it my own and launched my bot and everybody could else use it. But that's not what we're doing. I'm making a tutorial so that you understand it and implement, build up on this and have a nice little product for the community, right? So anyway, so that's what we have seen now. So this is what we're going to implement right here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the bot. Right now we will leave this. I'm just gonna scroll this down a little bit because this will help us to write, right? Okay, first I'm going to take care of the bit smaller, which is the basically hello world, but I'm going to check because this is differentiating between print and the defining the function. So I'm going to check if this contains the def. If not, then go ahead and take care of this. If not, then go ahead and take care of that section. So there are two cases. Okay, let's do that. So if not, so I'm going to say format args, and I'm going to take the first index of that, and I'm going to say starts with def. Right, guys? So I'm checking if it starts with def. And so I'm checking this one. If it should not have, right? It shouldn't start with def. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna do pass here. And if it does, then I'm gonna take care over here, right? So I'm gonna leave pass here. Perfect. So let's take care of this first, just to show you. So I'm going to say short code snippet. So the snippet of the code is the shortest version. I'm just saying this equals to, I'm going to use the join, and let's take the format arguments, format args, and I'm going to slice it, guys, okay? I'm going to slice it. So the first index till the -1. So literally, because the -1 is that we want to avoid this. We don't want that. We want from here to here. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. So let's do 1 and then -1. So that's starting point, ending point. So slice comes basically, so if you ever do slice, it's a starting, end, and then how many steps do you want? So if you if you're not familiar with this, just to let you know. So let's go, and then we're going to save this in a file, right? This input. So text file is equal to, now is the time for us to create a text file where we're going to have a storage facility for that snippet of code. So the best way to do it, as we were doing it in our database folder, we're going to right click here And hear me out, we're going to create a Python file, guys, because in order for us, the formatter library that we're using is it needs to see a Python file because it expects a Python file in order to format that file. So this is why we're going to create a Python file. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to call this source code. And leave it empty. That's fine. Okay, I'll go ahead and add there but anyway. So let's go ahead and hit save all. Come out of that. And I'm gonna open this. So it's gonna be dot. Now for you probably noticed, guys, I'm not using today Windows. I'm using Linux just for a little bit change, but you've probably seen that I use / when I'm using Windows because I did notice that some of my viewers are having issue with the forwards and / with their Windows machines. But if you do, and if you're one of them who's having issues, then go ahead and use the /. But anyway, I'm going to upload this code in Windows version of /. Right, you're gonna already have that. And if you're on the opposite side where you're using Mac or Linux, then please make sure they are into /. Okay, so /databases and then /source code.py. Right, we're gonna write that into that file. So I'm gonna put W there. Perfect. So we're going to write, and then I'm going to call this the variable, which is text file.write. And what we're going to write, we're going to write the snippet, right? This is the bit. So I'm just going to paste it there. There you go. So source code snippet. Okay, it's I think spelling mistake. That's why it's highlighting. Yeah, and let's close the file, so which is text file.close and open parenthesis and close parenthesis. So this goes for this file. Now obviously this is whatever we have received and whatever we did, we actually doing that. We will see that in a minute, guys, so bear with me. Now we like we said where we were implementing our thought process and building our logic, that we want to now format our files. So to do that, os.system, because we're going to execute a command. So if I go back here, guys, and if I look here, you can see there's usage, right? So usage says there's a command and it expects a source file or a directory. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. System, and within there I'm gonna use double quotation, and I'm gonna say the command itself and the source file or the directory in this case. So it is databases and then source code.py. And that's it, right? So databases, source code.py. Everything seems to look. We'll come to this section. Don't worry. I've just put a pass in there. It's not going to do anything if we do. And let's test our logic, because we need to see if that is the case, what is happening. So I'm going to save it. And remember, guys, that the next thing we're going to do is handle this, right? So it's fine, but probably I'm not gonna have this anymore, because once I remove this, but just to let you know. So let's go here, and we want to see if the ones that has not, right, that doesn't have that define. So I'm gonna do that, and if I go back here, we can see reformatted database. So well done. So it's the library that we're using. That's the command after execution is telling us that it has been reformatted. And if we go back in there and we open the source code, and you can see hello world, right? Now, I could have literally don't need to use that format, but just in case, because sometimes what if there are some typos, right? Normally on IDE, it's getting taken care immediately because Python is dynamic, right? It's telling you on while you type in it. It's telling you exactly what's wrong with it, but obviously over there, when you're typing in here, you can't really tell what is going on. And sometimes imagine pressing a wrong key or something that happens. Then in this case, we're getting it formatted. So that's a good use case to cover. Cool. And I'm going to close this. So that goes for that. That has been successful. We can see I'm going to stop this one. And now next case that we're going to take care, which is what happens when this is defined functions, right? When it contains def and the function name itself. So in this case, I'm going to take two variable, which is long code snippet. I'm just going to call it long code snippet, guys, but feel free to name whichever you think. And again, I'm going to join them. And yep, and I'm gonna format args. Nope, not this one. Format. Come on. Format args. Yeah, that's the one I'm asking, buddy. And then I'm gonna slice it. So I'm gonna slice this one from the first index itself where the define is, but this time I'm going to go -2. Now, if I go -2, then what is happening is that it is, if I do this, it's going to avoid this. That's a -1. And this is also going to avoid the test itself because we want this bit first. And this is because this is outside our code, because we're calling a callback functions, right? It's calling the function outside the method. Because it's outside the method, we want to leave that outside, okay? So that's why I did -2 there. Okay, now we're going to get that exact -2 that we left out, the curve when we're calling the function, the callback function. So we're going to get that. So code snippet code callback snippet equals to, and I'm gonna do join dot join, and then format args, and then within there I'm just gonna slice the -2. Okay, perfect. And that should do it. So now we're going to do the text file like we do. Text file is equal to open. We're going to open this one. So I'm just going to copy this, guys, just to save some time. I know I'm explaining, but it's important to explain because what is the purpose? If things are not explained and you just copy and paste the code, right? You don't want us to get stuck into tutorial hell. So, and then write. And then what we're going to write is two things now, because the first thing first is the long snippet code, which is actual code from the define, and then the callback self, right? So I'm going to take f-string literals here. That is the best use case I can see. So I'm going to say f strings. And the first thing is going to be this one, which is I'm going to copy and paste it here. And now, if we noticed here, because there is a return, right? So there's a gap. So this is on the next line. So we need to take a new line there. So that formatter knows, oh, this is not associated with the other line. Cool. So we're going to do that. So yeah, with the new line. And then put n \n. And again, I'm going to do this one, the last bit. So there's a new line. And the code will successfully get formatted. And once that happens, I'm going to say text file dot close, right? And we can actually call our formatter right here. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. What is it? Okay, that should be fine now. So that goes for this, guys. So I'm hoping there shouldn't be any issues, but I hope you're able to understand this. And yeah, and after that happens, we can test this one if we want to. So let's go ahead and test it before we move on to the next sections, where we actually going to send it to our compiler API, where it's going to get compiled and send back the result. So let's wait for the bot to come online. So I'm going to try this one. So let's take this, copy this, paste it here, push enter. And there you go. So reformat has been successful. And if I look at the source code, you can see there has been a space and it has been identified. It's given enough space here. And then this is the execution. Perfect. Cool. So we are pretty much good. It's 80% is over. And the rest 20% is to send this to our compiler and receive the output, which is pretty easy. So I'm going to come out of the else statement. And I'm going to say text file. We're going to read the text file equals to, and I'm going to open the text file. So in this case, just going to copy this, paste it here. I'm going to change this to read, right? We're going to read the file and come here. And after we read the file, I'm literally going to send it. So there are normal steps. So ctx.send. And so in here, we're going to do few formatting. But before that, let me just call the API so it's easy for you to see. So compiler, compiler takes code equals to. And what we're going to do is that we're going to read the text file, whatever the file is there, whatever inside this file, the source code itself, that is going to get to send. We're going to send that to our compiler here, right? That's going to happen. So let's do that. So it's going to be text file dot read. That's it. That's all we need. And basically once that has been successfully done, we want the output. So remember there was an output, so we're going to call that output here. Okay, perfect. There you goes, the output. And now we're going to format this little bit nicely, right? So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to take f-string literals, and I'm gonna put that at the end as well. Okay, read file, right? I think that should be here. Oops. Give me 1 second, guys. There has been so just want to put bracket there, and I'm gonna put this one right over here. So now that is inside there, and we're going to use the parentheses to identify those. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna put the parentheses around right over here. So that's perfect. And the compiler, okay, to apologize, that should have been here. Sorry guys, I should have done this formatting, but I just wanted to show you guys what I mean exactly. And yeah, that should be fine. Compiler code, and this needs to come here. Compiler code is equal to this. Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah. And now we're going to send a nice little embed. So sort of like a block again. So I'm going to first say that this is the output. Right, and I'm going to say there is a new line. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. So there's a new line. And we're going to wrap this around a block. So I'm going to say, and we're going to set the color to YAML. So you can color the blocks inside the text inside a block. And I'm going to put a new line there. And then wrap this around again. Right. That's perfect, guys. And we can see this in actions. And if there's anything wrong, then we can do a correction. But I'm pretty sure this is it. So hopefully, yeah, that should be fine. Let's hit save again and hit run. Our bot is online. Let's go here. And we're going to test the first one, so which is run pi, right? And push enter there. And there you go. So the output is hello world. So that's working. Let's do for this define test. And we're going to press enter. And we should have the output, which is 1 + 1 is equal to 2. So that's it. That is it, guys. And you can see at a minimal level what we are able to achieve here. And I hope you enjoyed it as thoroughly as me. It was fun, I would say, something pretty different and unique. And that's why my videos takes a little bit longer to produce, because I kind of come with something different that is not been done. It is almost impossible to capture something never been done, but it may probably it's been done, but I tried to come up with a different way and try to explain to you guys as easy as possible. And again, guys, if you like this content, make sure to give a thumbs up, share with your community, and consider subscribing to my channels if you think this content deserves chances for you. And thank you very much for watching, and I will see you very soon with another tutorial. And till then, goodbye.